What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Holler. My name is Kevin, and if this is your first time joining me, I'd like to thank you for stopping by the channel. So it's getting a little bit colder outside, at least here in Oregon it is. So I want to do a beef stew, but we're going to do it with a little bit of a twist. We're going to start out by making some poor man burnt ends. So let's get going. Welcome back to another video, guys. So today we're going to be doing some poor man burnt ends, and what that is basically you take a chuck roast and you smoke it just like a brisket, cut it up, make some burnt ends out of it. But today I'm going to be doing it two different ways. As you see, I have this USDA Choice chuck roast. It is 4.77 pounds. It was on sale for only $2.47 a pound. So this big piece of meat was only $11.78. Got it from a grocery store called Safeway here close to my house. So the two ways that I'm going to do it, first is just going to be a normal way where we cube it up and we'll put some barbecue sauce on it. Should be fantastic. The other way, it is fall time, so I want to make a beef stew. So I'm going to, after it's got that nice bark on it and we're getting ready to make our burnt ends, we're going to basically cube that up and we're going to put that into our beef stew. So sit right there, we'll get this out of the package and we'll get going. For seasoning today, we're going to go ahead and start off by hitting it with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And then to that, we're going to go ahead and add some salt, pepper, garlic, and onion. Then I have this Bextens Best rub. Now if you're looking for a low sodium rub, this is it. I'll go ahead and put a link to his website below. Go ahead and give him a check out. But this seasoning, it's got brown sugar, dehydrated garlic, pecan. It's even got a little bit of dehydrated horseradish in there. We can't forget about seasoning the whole piece of meat, so we're going to hit the very sides of it, and then going to go ahead and flip it over and get the back side same exact way as we did the front side. Alright, while that's sitting, we'll go ahead and get the smoker ready. Today we're going to be using the pellet smoker, so we're using the silverback. We're going to be cooking at around 275 degrees. So let's go ahead and go get that fired up. Alright, the silverback's ready to go. We're sitting at about 275 degrees right now. So we're going to go ahead and get this meat on here. Just got it sitting in the middle. Now this is a fairly thick piece of meat, you know, being almost 5 pounds. Probably going to be close to about an hour a pound, but we're going to temp it. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and take this meat probe, stick it right down in here in the middle. That's more so I can just keep an eye on it to know what the temperature's at, but we're really going to be going off of color versus temperature. Once it hits enough color, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it in some butcher paper so we can finish it off and then get it ready for the burnt ends. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to be flipping it over, you know, every hour or so. I'll keep an eye on it and I'll let you know what I do. So sit right there and let's let this thing cook. Alright, so it has been about an hour and a half, and I went ahead and I decided I'm going to go ahead and flip it over since we are cooking at a higher temperature at 275. I don't want it to get too dark on the underside since your pellet grill heat comes from the bottom. So let's go ahead and give it a flip. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Got some good color starting to get on there. So we'll just let it continue to keep cooking. It's been about 4.5 hours now since we put our chuck roast on. It has, I think, plenty of color, and we're hitting right around between 150 to 155 right now for the temperature. So I want to speed this up a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it in butcher paper. Then we're going to get it back on the smoker, and I think I'm going to go ahead and bump up the heat to 300. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and get the temperature gauge back in. And what we're looking for now, I'm shooting for maybe around 190 degrees. Somewhere around there, maybe a little bit more. Depends on how the meat's filling. Then we'll get it cut up and back on the smoker and cut up and into the stew. And that'll finish off the tenderization. Let's get this stew ready. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is take a little bit of olive oil. Add that to your pan. You don't need much here, just a little bit. To that, let's add 2 cut up onions. Now these onions are on the rather small side. Then about 6 teaspoons of crushed garlic. Stir that up really good and let it cook down for a few minutes. To that, we're going to go ahead and add about 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste. This you also want to stir up and let it cook down for a few minutes to get that tomato paste cooked down. It's time to start adding our liquid. So first, 2 cups of beef broth, or a whole can. Then 2 cups of a dry red wine. Now I'm using Pinot Noir here. Then 2 cups of water with about 1/8 of a cup of cornstarch mixed into it. 2 teaspoons of salt. 1 teaspoon of black pepper. 1.5 teaspoons of dried thyme. 1 teaspoon of sugar. Then just go ahead and toss a bay leaf in there. And stir it up really good. Now it's time for our veggies. First, I got about 4 carrots cut up here. Then about 1.5 pounds of baby yukons and baby reds. Stir that up really good, and let's get that lid back on there and get to cooking. Alright guys, so our chuck roast is sitting right around 190 degrees right now. Let's go ahead and pull it, and I'm going to start cubing it up. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. Definitely got some juices running out of the boy. We're going to go ahead and let that rest for just a few minutes, and we'll start cubing it up and getting the burnt ends ready. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to be trying to make around 1-inch cubes. I'm going to take these initial ones that I just cut, and we're actually going to put those into our regular burnt ends. So I'm just going to take a regular, just a pan. I didn't have a foil one. So this one will work. Sorry, I had to find me a work surface. So I'm just gonna put some of this Kinder barbecue sauce on here. And Kinder is a little bit thinner sauce and actually works out pretty nice for these burn ends because you can coat them pretty good. And you don't need a ton of sauce. And we're just gonna gently stir them around. Get the barbecue sauce, coat it all over them. Now what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and put some foil over this, and I'm gonna put it back on the smoker. We're still sitting at about 300 degrees. And I'm gonna let this go basically until these things are tender, real fork pull apart, which they're not far from there. So I'll show you what those look like at the same time as when the stew's done. So stay tuned. Let's add our meat that we just cubed up to this. Now what you want to do here is add, and then basically we're just trying to continue tenderizing the meat and letting the potatoes and the carrots get done. Then your stew will basically be ready. Alright guys, so our cook is actually finally done now. So it's kind of a struggle for me to try to get both of them done at the same exact time, but it came out pretty good. They actually very close to each other. So on this side we have our poor man's burnt ends, and on this side is our poor man's burnt end beef stew. So we started off with that almost 5-pound chuck roast. We smoked it, cut it up into cubes. We made a nice broth for this stew with carrots and potatoes. And then for our burnt ends, we just cubed them up, put a little barbecue sauce on them, threw them right back on the smoker. So when we were cooking the chuck roast, we took it up to around 190 degrees, so it didn't need that much more to cook. So this one, the burnt ends went on for maybe about 40 more minutes, and then the stew was basically just straight back into the stew. The potatoes were already going for maybe 10 minutes, but we're just basically trying to get the potatoes and carrots done, and then it's basically done. So now let's just go ahead and see what we got to work with here. Oh, look at that. These things just fall apart. Go ahead and give that a taste. And our stew. Let's go ahead and give this a taste. Let's see if I can get a piece of this meat right here. Oh, look at that. Comes apart also. Get some of this juice. Maybe a little potato. As both of these are actually pretty outstanding. The broth in this, oh, that wine and beef broth together actually does pretty well. Alright guys, that's going to be it for our poor man burnt ends beef stew and just regular burnt ends. As always, if you got any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And always, holler back.